He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer.
The port, so that we'll have the most competitive port in West Africa. And that was because volumes had grown so much that the old Tema port could no longer handle. The only efficient berth we had was the MPS berth. For those of you who remember, it could take only 2 ships. And so anytime I flew out of Accra, I saw a queue of ships waiting to enter Tema port. And so I called Gapoa director. I said, but why do you always have this queue of ships? He said, so we don't have the capacity to handle all of them. So some of them have to come and wait with cargo for about a week or more before they get the chance to come in. And that's when I challenged them to build us a new port, because Gapoa and MPS were partners already. So I said, government of Ghana doesn't have the money. You use your own balance sheet and look for the money and build us a port in which you are partners. Today, that port is operating. We have more capacity than it can even handle. And that is why we are sad that volumes are escaping. We must make sure that as much volume comes through that port as possible. Because even the phase 2, if they finish the phase 2, we can handle cargo for almost 5 countries in this sub-region, because we have the capacity to be able to do that. Today, that port is earning Gapoha a lot of money. Since that port was built, Gapoha's dividends has been more than $200 million from the new port. And yet people say, I sold the port. Meanwhile, now, the dividend Gapoha is making, of that almost $200 and something million Gapoha has taken, that is what you've taken $70 million out of to go and do Boankra Port without a railway line. And the point is, if my container comes, why would I wait for you to pick my container on a truck and send it to Boankra? I'll come and negotiate the charge with the articulator driver myself and take my thing. Boankra can only be viable if there's a railway line. And so we're building it just because we promised that we'll build it. But after you finish, how are you going to send the containers there? By road? It's the same way we do it already. So I'd rather clear my thing in Tema, put it on a truck, and then haul my cargo to Kumasi. So we need to make our port competitive. And all of us must work together to see how we can do it. One, clearance procedures must be made easier. And one of the promises I make you is that we're going to sit together with our trade ministry, and we're going to look at all the fees and charges at the port and rationalize them. Those that are not necessary illegal fees, we'll take them out so that we can make things easier. We're going to let the port work 24 hours. And it's part of the strategy for the 24-hour economy. There's no reason why we can't clear our things on Sunday. There's no reason why we can't clear our things on holidays. The port is an essential service. The way that the electricity company does not go on leave on Sundays and holidays is because it's an essential service. The port is also an essential service. And so the port must continue to work every day of the week, including holidays. And so we'll do that. So that people can clear their goods as quickly as possible. Aside from that, in order to make your lives easier, we're going to license some financial institutions. And so if your container is coming and you don't have the money to clear it immediately, you will go to the financial institution to be licensed to do that kind of business in the port. It will be a specialized financial service. So you take your customs document and then take it to the institution and say, look, my cargo is coming. these are the goods I have in it, this is the duty I'm supposed to pay. You sign an agreement with them, depending on how long you want. I want a month to be able to gather the money to clear, or 2 months, or 3 months. Yeah. Government will regulate the interest that they will charge you, so that it's not excessive. So as soon as your container is put down, they will pick up your container, they'll pay government's money to it, and they'll move your container to their warehouse, and your container will be there. And then you take your time, put your money together, you go and take your container, and you go away. And so that is one of the things that we're looking at, to license special financial institutions to do that specialized service, so that government will also get its money up front. There will be no problem with somebody's container staying in the port, demurrage, and all that kind of thing. Aside from that, we're going to look at the issue of shipping agents. It has come up not only in this discussion, but when we met the clearing and forwarding agents and all of them, everybody complained about the shipping agents, about the fees they are charging. A lot of those fees are not being charged in other ports or any other place. The same companies are operating in other ports. They are not charging those, so why are you charging them in Ghana? And so those are fees that we're going to take away so that it reduces the cost of doing business in our port too. A person imported a car, and I was just looking at the charges. This is it's a 2023 Lexus. These are the charges. 20%.
He has labored. He has.
Good morning, and thank you very much for staying tuned to Pan-African Television. We are live from the Kwame Nkrumah studios of Pan-African Television. Of course, you can watch us on television. We are also live on social media handles on YouTube and Facebook. Facebook, Pan-African Television, YouTube, Pan-African Television. You can watch us live. I am Sena Nombo, and I welcome you to today's edition of the mother of all talk shows, Alhaji and Alhaji. Alhaji and Alhaji is live on Radio Gold, the power station, 90.5 FM is the dial. I'll be telling you a number of affiliate stations we're also live on this morning. If you're listening to us on any of those, do share your comments with us, what you think about the discussions we're having this morning on the show. Of course, this morning we're discussing this poll by Global Info Analytics. In fact, this is what they say in the executive summary. A national opinion poll by Global Info Analytics for the 2024 presidential elections shows the ruling party's candidate, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, trailing the main opposition candidate, John Dramani Mahama, in the race to lead the country in 2024. The poll shows JDM leads with 54.3%, Dr. Bawumia 34.9%, Alan Kojo Tremanting 7.5%, Nana Kwame Bediako 2.3%, others 1%. That's the poll that they presented, and of course we'll be discussing that. It's our very first topic for discussion this morning. What will this actually mean to the next election, the 2024 election that's coming off in December? Will they stay this way? Will things change? What do the various parties need to do, and how would they use this particular research? We'll be talking about that in our very first topic for discussion this morning. And then right in front of me, you can see there are many newspapers on my table. There are two publisher newspapers. The new publisher, Region or Religion, Bawumia Rani Mate Saga. The Ghanaian publisher, MMDC's exposed paid agenda against Toshi. Now, she is managed to put herself in the media, actively lobbying for it. You can see the stories every week. Yesterday, I was talking about one of the stories in the Chronicle newspaper. There are many newspapers that publish stories about her. She is bold enough to show her face as one of those interested in partnering Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia to lead the NPP into the 2024 elections. There are some names that have died down a bit. They were in the lead, but now you don't hear a lot about them. What choice will they make? What choice will Dr. Bawumia make? Because I think we promised that before the end of this month, they will name a running mate. would they still be in the position to do that? We'll be talking about the Rani May saga of the New Patriotic Party once again on the mother of all talk shows, Alhaji and Alhaji. And the third issue we'll be discussing is that the EC has set April 30 to hold a by-election for a replacement for John Kuma, the late John Kuma. So they'll be holding a by-election in Ijisu to elect an MP. One of the names that have come up prominently is the person who says is the Cristiano Ronaldo that replaced the Messi in John Kuma. His name is none other but a person who will describe in the media when you're writing a story as the beleaguered Kwesi Nyantechi. Well, we'll talk about that, and that will conclude our discussion for today. Well, joining me in the studio this morning already, we have Comrade Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed, who is Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, joining us in studio. We also have the Member of Parliament for Mando, Honorable Delasoa, joining us. Lawyer Andrew Apia Dankwa, always a pleasure having him. He's a member of the Movement for Change, joining us. And then our panel will be completed by none other, by Comrade Kwesi Pratt Jr., who is General Secretary of the Socialist Movement of Ghana, a veteran journalist himself, to complete our panel for today. Once again, you are an important part of the show. Do share your comments and thoughts with us. We'll start off the discussion and talk about the Global Info Analytics Poll survey that puts former President John Dramani Mahama family in the lead. And I'll start with Comrade Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed. Comrade, good morning.
Good morning, Senator.
And Eid Mubarak to you.
Eid Mubarak. And good morning to my colleagues. And permit me to apologize. I have just a little cold.
Okay.
There could be some interruptions. Then also, let me say that I haven't been following that much. You know, I was away. And on the matter of the ranship of the MPP. But it is not something that is hidden for everybody. So I would first and foremost say Eid Mubarak to the entirety of the Muslim community in Ghana and across the continent of Africa. I know everywhere in Africa they have the opportunity to watch this program. And most importantly, the good people of Tamale Central. There is a football match we do every year, and I know that they will climax in it, and inshallah shall be present at the climax of the football match. And of course, my colleague, honorable member, and my lawyer, who is from the Butterfly Fraternity. Senator, there is nothing wrong with any political party choosing a running mate or any flag bearer. Sorry. Okay, I think that I'm sorry. And on the issue of whether the NDC wins the elections or not, I think it is very clear for everybody to see. When I hear our friends in MPP say they will break the A, my response is that break the economy first. It seems to me they are been fixated on the issue of winning election rather than fixing the challenges that confront the people of this country. So if you listen to them, you have the mandate to govern. The people of this country gave you the mandate in the 2020 elections. And you have the mandate to govern. Your responsibility, as far as I'm concerned in a democracy, is to focus on delivering the mandate which you were given by the people of this country. Instead, they are so concerned about winning the next elections rather than fixing the challenges confronting us. It would have been justified if the concern was to win elections, if the MPP was just contesting for the elections. But you have been given the mandate for 8 years, whether through genuine and justifiable means or through a default. Whatever the case is, President Nana Addo was declared the winner of the elections. Now, President Nana Addo is not contesting, and I know that there have been several attempts by the NPP to insulate Dr. Bawumia from all the mess that we are facing today. I have said on several platforms, and I'll repeat it here, that no amount of perfume from Arabia, or if you like, oud perfumes, can be used to bath Dr. Bawumia of the mess that is created by this government. He is an integral part of this government. He was appointed by President Nana Addo in 2016. Even at a time when he was not an MPP member, says the then General Secretary, that he was not a card-bearing member of the party. And even if indeed he had taken his membership at the time, he was still not qualified because he needed not less than 5 years as an active member, a dues-paying member, to be able to qualify to be made the running mate. Yet, candidate Nana Addo at that time defied all the legal consequences and appointed him as the running mate. And the reason he gave, sometimes you listen to it, is funny. However, he was able to convince the National Executive Committee of the party and the leadership of the NPP to accept him. And the reason why he convinced them, he used Dr. Bawumia's economic prowess. If you listen to the then National Secretary, he told them that he needed someone who was a genius, if you like, as far as the economy of this country is concerned. And he was able to convince the NPP on the basis of Dr. Bawumia's capacity to turn around the economy of this country, and for which reason they agreed to allow him to be made the running mate against all legal positions of the party. And the fact that he wasn't a card-bearing member, he was not qualified to even hold any position, let alone a running mate of the party. Whatever the case is, he was allowed to be made the NPP candidate. I'm making all this analysis because whatever survey that is done, and if you listen to, if you read some of they use about 6,000 sampling size, and some of the questions, I must say that they naturally border on the performance of President Nana Addo Dr. Bawumia's administration. But if you are doing a survey between a ruling government and opposition, the questions naturally will border on the performance of the ruling government, and whether you think that they have performed well, and whether you think that if they haven't performed well, whether you think that the party in opposition will be able to perform well or do better as far as managing the economy of this country. So largely, the questions that were used were questions that bordered on the economy of this country and how the economy is managed. Of course, it will border on governance, because corruption, even though it is on governance, has everything to do with the management of the economy. So the verdict on which the survey was conducted anchored hugely on how this economy is performed. And Dr. Bawumia's appointment as the running mate for the NPP flag bearership in 2016 and subsequently 2020 was as a result of the capacity they considered he had, that is the economy. So if you want to assess the performance of the elections or the major political parties, you cannot run away from the economy. So there have been several attempts to insulate Dr. Bawumia from the economy. You remember when when he was nominated, when he was elected as the flag bearer for the NPP, and he had his program at UPSA. Interestingly, I don't know why they have suddenly abandoned Central University, because that was where he had the opportunity to speak, out his garbage as economic reasons and policies that he intended to formulate to solve the problems of this country. They instead decided to go to UPSA because President Mahama has been using UPSA. There's a popular Dagbani proverb, and so basically, they attempted to do that. I was curious when he said that he should not be blamed for the economic challenges and that he was just a driver mate. You know why? The first lady was seated there. President Nana Addo's wife was there. And then he made this statement, and the woman herself was applauding him. Clearly, it was something that they planned. Clearly, they had agreed that they have failed, and therefore, Dr. Bawumia should insulate himself from the mess. The fact that Dr. Bawumia said that we should not blame him for the economic challenges we are facing today because he was a driver mate, itself is an admission that the government in which he served as a vice president completely failed. After all, why would he be trying to extricate himself from the government? A government that he proudly, associated himself with, a government that he was proudly mentioned as the messiah of the economy. And in fact, the wife described him as economic wizkid. I think that he has become economic poyoyo, because economic wizkid would not manage the economy in the manner that it's been managed. So when the first lady was seated and was also applauding Dr. Bawumia, I knew ab initio this was something that they planned. And the fact that they planned that is an admission of failure. If you read the the survey done by Info Analytic, you have almost 20% gap that can never be reversed, and that has never been reversed in any survey. About almost 54% and about 30-something%, almost 20% gap. It has never happened anywhere. It takes a miracle to be able to reverse that gap. And considering the fact that things are even getting worse, things are not improving. They are getting absolutely worse. You have almost 9%, I guess so, or more than who have said, who previously voted for Nana Addo in the 2020 election, who said they are not going to vote for Nana Addo. Is it 9% or 19%? A huge percentage of people who voted for Nana Addo in the 2020 elections, who says that they are no longer going to vote for Nana Addo. And you have about 60% saying they will vote for Bawumia. 60% of those who voted for President Nana Addo in the 2020 says they will vote for Bawumia. And about 19% who voted for Nana Addo says they won't vote for Bawumia. They will instead vote for JDM. So clearly, these are people who are either NPP members or people who may be tilted towards the right, or people who genuinely indeed think that the NPP will do better. Because we are not talking about 2016 elections, where people felt that we needed to change, and therefore they must vote for a different political party. This survey and the questions were based on the outcome of the 2020 elections. So that is after 2016. So if you have about 19% of those who voted for President Nana Addo in 2020, even though the economic mess started not just in 2021, it started before 2020 elections. Now, if you have about 19% of them saying that they will no longer vote for Nana, they will not vote for Bawumia, they would vote for JDM. They are not saying we won't vote for any political party or we won't vote for MPP again, but we are shifting our vote from the MPP to Nana Addo. I shudder to think that a huge percentage of the 19% should be members of the NPP, because it is only members of NPP, after the mess we experienced before the 2020 election, who would have gone ahead to vote for President Nana Addo in the 2020 elections. Those who were neutrals, who voted for the MPP in 2016, who felt that the economy was struggling, who indeed were gullible to the lies that were peddled by the MP. Mind you, they peddled a lot of lies about corruption, about economic despondency, and many other things. Majority of those people would have been people who neither belongs to the NDC nor the NPP, who would have been described as the neutrals. But those who voted for the MPP in 2020, regardless all the mess that we experienced between the 2017 to 2020, would have been NPP, majority of them would have been MPP members. So the 19% who voted for President Nana Addo in the 2020, who are now saying they will vote for JDM, I can bet my last penny, majority of them are MPP. Now, I also say this because you would find some of them also who will be voting for Mr. Alan Chirmantin, who naturally would have been either MPP members or people who have lost faith in these two political parties. There's also another thing that I think that, which is angering the people of this country the more. We have never had elections in this country, as far as I'm concerned. One, as a political science student, who probably would have gone through literature of our elections before the 1990s, because the 1992 elections I was upright and I knew I was heavily engaged in the body politic. But prior to the 1992 elections, all the elections we have had, the only knowledge I have about them is what I have read and the kinds of information I have gotten, about the outcomes of those elections and the reasons why political parties won and lost. But so if I want to do this analysis based on what we're experiencing today, we have never had an elections in this country where religion, ethnicity, tribalism indeed have taken a center stage than we are experiencing today. And that for me is extremely dangerous. And everything about these three dangerous reasons why our body politic, they have become a center stage, is occasioned by the conscious effort done by Dr. Bawumia and the NPP. Why? We have had presidents in this country who neither belongs, who are not Muslims or Christians. And when I say Christians or Muslims, who are not necessarily even practicing, Christians. If you check our elections from the 1960s up to date, they may be seen as Christians or Muslim, but you won't find them just like we use in the parlance, krefe, Muslims or Christians. Even if you come to the 1992 elections, it has never been a major factor or consideration, and we having presidents or not. 1992, we had elections between the two political parties. There wasn't any Muslim among them. 1996, between the two major political parties. It became an issue in 2000. And even when Alhaji Mama was nominated as the running mate to President Kufuor, they didn't emphasize so much on the religious aspects of it. Of course, naturally, it would have been used, but it wasn't as glaring as it's being used today. Now, so it is becoming extremely dangerous. And again, you have had other instances where people think that, oh, the MPP, we had the former, majority leader who says that the MPP has been accused of being an Akan party, and therefore no Akan must lead the party. It must also be led by a Northerner. As if Northerners are just carriers of water and drawers of water and carriers of fuel. And to be very honest with you, I think that is extremely dangerous. And I expect people who believe in these religions to speak out. Because you see, religious and ethnic decisions and actions are so emotive. And I'm tempted to agree with Karl Marx when he said religion is the opium of the masses. When people are fed with these narratives, religion, ethnicity, tribalism, they begin not to think straight. And every thinking that anybody does is anchored on who that person is, either as a religious person or belonging to one ethnic group or the other. And it is very clear that the MPP is using it consciously, and that for me is extremely dangerous. Look, Sana, I'm a Muslim. Alhamdulillah, I'm a practicing Muslim. But I don't care who is elected the president of this country. What I do care about is the person see all of us as Ghanaians, and the policy interventions will not distinguish between who is a Muslim and who is a Christian. Poverty is no respecter of religion. Poverty is no respecter of ethnicity or tribe. Economic policies, when they are formulated properly, they help alleviate the suffering of everybody, regardless their ethnic or religious inclination. We have had a Zango, a Nasara coordinator of the MPP, who publicly stated that they should vote for the MPP because Dr. Bawumia is a Muslim. One thing, the mistake they are making is that the Zongos and the Muslim community support for the NDC has nothing to do with religion. It has to do with the fact that the NDC is the only political party within which they have equal space to operate. And that is the mistake they are making. It is a political party within which they have a space to operate. So they see it as their own. So the MPP, when they came with this Nasara club, it was consciously done at that time to see how they can bridge the gap between the NDC and the MPP as far as the Zongo and the Muslim communities, were concerned. But to stand publicly and make that statement, and not a single person condemned him except those of us who are in the NDC, for me, is just completely unacceptable. And you see, look, even in Islam, there is Surah Al-Imran. Allah says that I've created you nations and tribes just for identification, and that the best among you are the most pious. Even in the Quran, Allah says that he has created us nations and tribes. He didn't say for you to be Muslims and Christians, just for identification, and that the best among you is the most pious. So you can have a Muslim who is a leader, who is not pious, who cares less about how Muslims go through. Why? On the issue of LGBTQ, I have been calling and many people on Dr. Bawumia to take a position. He refused to do that until now. So it is very clear that the position he's taking now has nothing to do with a genuine position. It has to do with a political leverage. Look, I attended a program with him, a funeral in Tamale. And then they tried to play this religion thing. I said, every Muslim should be concerned about what is happening in Palestine. It is not a religious thing, but every Muslim, because they want to play that religious card. Because the Al-Aqsa is the third most important Islamic place in the world. Now, even those who are fighting against the injustices, the dehumanization, the human rights violation, the killing of Palestinians, 99% of them are not even Muslims. But they are human, and it has to do with humanity. What did Dr. Bawumia say about it? Even up till date, not a single statement. On LGBTQ, every religion, and I have said that there has never been a convergence of known world religion on a matter than our collective anti-position on the LGBTQ. Now, he refused to make a comment on it until now. So in one breath, they want to use the religion as a basis on which they should vote for MPP because of Dr. Bawumia. The religion itself tells you that don't vote, don't elect leaders who care less about everybody. They don't say who care less about Muslims. It says that vote leaders who think positive about everybody. Why is it that they are using this religion and the most deprived communities under this government is the Zongo communities? How many promises didn't they make to the Zongo communities, to the Muslim communities in this country? Now check the NPP, whatever, is it development tracker? Do you know what they have mentioned?
Performance tracker.
Performance tracker. And the Zongo development, do you know what they have put there? Toilets. Go and check the performance tracker. Their achievement under the Zongo Development Ministry, toilets. Isn't this insulting? Isn't this insulting? So I'm saying that I'm not surprised that you have this almost 20 percentage point gap on the survey that is done as to who would win the elections in 2020 because of some of the reasons I have enumerated. The focus on religion, the focus on ethnicity, rather than focusing on the economic challenges the people of this country are confronted with. If I wake up as a Muslim and I don't have a job, my brother and sister who is a Christian, who is a traditionalist, who is a Jew, who is a Buddhist, who is Hindu, wakes up without a job. When we are searching for job, the preoccupation has nothing to do with religion. It has to do with the job that we want to do. We are looking for jobs. So the challenges confronting the people of this country is not strictly speaking religion. And for me, the fear about allowing this thing to continue without a proper condemnation of both Muslims and Christians, for me, is dangerous as far as our democracy is concerned. Because if you allow that, it becomes a norm that any election people can use that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that those things do not play a role in politics. They do. But the inability to stand it, the inability to avoid it, and to make it a norm that it is acceptable to do religious politicking, it is acceptable to do ethnic politicking. Yet you have Mr. Alan Chilmantin, even though I condemn that statement he made that this country is a Christian country, this country is a secular country, and I condemn the statement he made that they must vote a Christian. I think that it was just reckless, but granted that that statement could even be accepted. They have seen problems with that because he made it publicly. Yet they have people who are going around the Zongos and in the Muslim communities, bases where youth are seated, MPP people, telling them to vote for MPP because Dr. Bawumia is a Muslim. They can't deny this. They do that, and they do it intelligently. They identify youth groups. I have had people who told me, even in Mecca when I met, oh, you need to support MPP because Dr. Bawumia is a Muslim. Alan Chilmantin's crime was that he made that statement publicly. But they do that in the Zongos and in the Muslim communities. They go to youth bases, and in fact, in some local radio stations. I don't want to mention a name. There's a place I found. Local radio station, they say it's a crime if you do not vote for Dr. Bawumia. Some will even tell you that vote for Dr. Bawumia because he's a Northerner. And I'm wondering whether President Mahama isn't a Northerner. I'm wondering. Because in one breath, you are now telling us that we should vote for Dr. Bawumia because he's a Muslim. The very people who are saying we should vote for MPP because Dr. Bawumia is a Muslim, they were those who supported other candidates against Ali Umama when he wanted to, of blessed memory, when he wanted to become the flag bearer of the MPP. At that time, religion was not a consideration. The campaign, tell me, Ali Umama, as far as I'm concerned, was the only Muslim who contested to be elected as MPP flag bearer in the 2008 elections. You have the same people who are now going around the Zongos and telling people to vote for Dr. Bawumia because he's a Muslim. They were against Ali Umama. As far as I'm concerned, Ali Umama was genuinely a practicing Muslim. I knew him too well. But they campaigned against him. Religion was not a factor of consideration. Today, religion has become a factor. It is dangerous to use religion. It is dangerous to use ethnicity. It is dangerous to use tribe as a basis on which people should be elected as flag bearers of this country. So I am not surprised. But my last comment, Senna, the NDC should not be complacent. There's a saying in the Gbani that if the blind man says he's going to throw a stone at you, he's not just looking at, sensing the stone. He's either stepping on the stone or he's holding the stone. We should never be complacent, because I've seen something that is creeping within the NDC. The presumption is that as if we have won the elections. And that is why you find people, their fixation is about what position do I get. It is not about we winning elections, and particularly some of us. We need to be very careful. Win the elections first. And the elections we are going into has got nothing to do with who benefits and who. It has to do with salvaging this country, liberating the people of this country from this corruption, this outright thievery. And it is not surprising today. You find people who were struggling to survive, have survived, and when we get to that, who are now assuring Dr. Bawumia that if they make them running mates, they are fully prepared to contribute about $20 million. And you wonder where they are making those monies. So I am not surprised that you have this, and I can't imagine this almost 20 gap difference, lead changing, except something miraculous happened, because there isn't any light at any end of any tunnel, because it is very clear that the NPP is not even learning from their lessons. They are not thinking of how they can stem the tide, restructure the economy and change many things so that people will be able to say that, okay, Dr. Bawumia is different. What they are concerned about now is how they can win elections, and it is very clear. Jean Mensa, the NPP, they are in connivance. We need to let them understand that it is not only one woman who gives birth to a troublesome child. Many women can give birth to troublesome children. Let us let them understand that. If we don't let them understand that it is not only one woman who gives birth to a troublesome child, they would want to repeat what they did in 2020 elections.
Thank you. Thank you, Comrade. Of course, the discussions around the executive summary captures it. Very first paragraph, a national opinion poll by Global Info Analysis for the 2024 presidential elections shows the ruling party's candidate, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, trailing the main opposition candidate, John Dramani Mahama, in the race to lead the country in 2025. The poll shows JDM leads with 54.3%. Dr. Bawumia 34.9%, Alan Kojo Chomanting 7.5%, Nana Kwame Bediako 2.3%, others 1%. Now, before I come to you, lawyer, of course, you're talking about the voting intentions of those who voted for Nanado in the 2020 elections. It says the poll also shows that 60% of voters who voted for Nana Akufo-Addo in the 2020 elections intend to vote for Dr. Bawumia, while 19% intend to vote for JDM. 9% will vote for Alan Kojo Chomanti and 2% for Nana Kwame Bediako. 92% of JDM voters in the 2020 elections will intend to vote for him again. 3% will vote for Dr. Bawumia, 2% for Alan Kojo Chomanti, and 1% Nana Kwame Bediako. Lawyer.
Let me wish you a good morning. Wish all my Muslim friends Eid Mubarak. Yesterday, my brother TJ granted me a very great gesture, and I think and not just TJ, but so many other Muslim friends reflects the spirit of our country. The fact that we are a country where Muslims, Christians, people from diverse backgrounds have been able to live together in harmony and are focused to build this Ghana dream, the dream that Kwame Nkrumah himself set for us, the dream to make our country the black star of not just Africa, but the world at large, a country where all black people in the world, whether they are American, whether they are European, can converge, can call home, and will always be assured that they have a place that they can always come to. Yeah. So yesterday, I want to say thank you to Tijani to TJ for his kind gesture. I wish my brother here, Comrade Honorable. I know he doesn't like to call Honorable. I mean, I insist on calling him Honorable. Honorable Comrade. Good morning. Always a pleasure to be in his company. A great submission, by the way. A submission I think has stand generally almost about 90% on all fours with, especially concerning his submission why or the considerations we should have when we are voting. The fact that it is dangerous if we allow or we do not educate our people that in choosing who is president, ethnic considerations, religious considerations must not be at the fore. But just to add that, you see, Alan Martin's comment wasn't really religious. But yourself, you see, in your submission, you made a very good point that practicing Muslim, practicing or what you call krifi. My personal view is that I've never believed in religion. I don't believe when Jesus Christ came into this world, his focus was to build a religion. His focus was to draw people closer to God, to fulfill God's initial purpose when he created the world, and to give us examples of how we should live. And my brother was talking about Allah, Muhammad himself speaking about creating people all over the world. Allah's statement, who are pious and all. And so I think Alan's comment was in the context of the kind of character that Christ was advising that a leader should have, and those characters being characters of integrity, character of understanding that where you are a leader, you need to serve, you don't need to be a servant, you need to be compassionate, you need to bring people together and to transform, because at the end of the day, one thing the Bible told us, especially in the book of Acts, when Peter had his vision of what's called a plate with different, God told him that, listen, who are you to say something is unclean when God says is clean concerning Cornelius? And Christ's vision ultimately has brought about the transformation of individual lives and transformation of the world at large. And so that was the purpose of Alan's statement. And that focus is very relevant now, taking into consideration the kind of leadership we've been served with over the past 8 years as in concerning character, concerning servant leadership. Because if there's one thing that is clear, and I'm so convinced about, is that Nana Addo's leadership has been, and the people around him, has been leadership where there has been what Alan himself has said before to be an arrogance of power, where people who have been given the privilege to lead and thus to serve us, I've rather wished that we lord over them, and their focus and their interest has never been to deliver a program that will advance the cause of our country, but rather they've pursued a program that is advancing their own cause. And all these things must be had into consideration when we, the people of Ghana, are going to what's called elect the new president come 2024. Now we are in a very critical stage of our national development, where certainly we are going to have to make another decision again for the 9th time as to who leads our country. And so certainly around this time we have all these surveys, and you understand, and for some of us the issue is what's the purpose, because really that is not the polls. We will have the proper polls in December 7th, so what's the purpose? But all these surveys, first of all, yes, for us is to guide you, rather than be certain because you have an interest in the election, but certainly the purpose is for the political entrepreneurs or political investors, so they know where to invest their money, as to, because the polls tells them what is likely to happen. For me, my consideration today, yes, the polls is important, but I think what is most important is what we are going to do in December 7th. And on December 7th, we are going to make a decision as a people. Collectively, we are going to make a decision, one of the most important decisions in the history of this country, or one of the most important decisions ever that is made in every nation. Now, for me, the starting point has to be the 1992 Constitution itself. And then beyond that, we then look at the context of where we are as a nation. And here the context where we are a nation would have to begin from, in my view, 2013. And what happened in 2016, why Ghanaians voted against John Dramani Mahama, voted for Nana Addo in 2016, and whether or not those reasons have been achieved. Because for me, what should always guide you is the purpose. Why are you taking or making certain decisions? Now, the framers of the 1919 Constitution, having had the benefit of what our independence had promised and the various instances where we had failed to sustain our democracy, thought it wise, beyond creating powers and distributing those powers, thought it wise to advise Ghanaians on what they should consider when they are taking any decision. And so in our constitution, I don't think you find that in a lot of constitutions as in across the globe. But in our constitution, we have a chapter that we call the Directive Principles of State Policy. And the focus of that chapter was to advise Ghanaians as to the policy considerations they must have when they were making decisions. So we read Article 34, and I want to read this. Article 34:1. It says the Directive Principles of State Policy contained in this chapter shall guide all citizens, Parliament, the President, the Judiciary, the Council of State, the Cabinet, political parties, and other bodies and persons in applying or interpreting this Constitution or any other law, and in taking, and there's a part that interests me, and in taking and implementing any policy decisions for the establishment of a just and free society. And in taking and implementing any policy decisions for the establishment of a just and free society. Now, in the spirit of the tone my comrade here set, as what we should consider when we are going to choose our president, and really is a decision. The decision we are going to make. What are the policy considerations we need to make generally when we are making that decision? And the purpose here per the Constitution is so that we can create a just and free society. Now, when you read the Directive Principles of State Policy, there are about 5 objectives. There's a political objective, there's an economic one, there's a cultural one, there's an educational one, there's a cultural one. So that when we are going to make that decision come 7th December, we need to understand those policies and how those policies can help us in achieving the overall objective for which our constitution or our country itself exists. That focus always has been towards create a society, one that's just, to create a society that is free. And certainly when you look at the objectives of, or the focus of this chapter of the Constitution, they understand that to achieve a just and free society, then there must be certain political objectives, there must be certain economic objectives, a cultural one, societal ones, and educational ones. Now, for me, there are a number of issues that you can zoom in when you are taking these 5 considerations into, when you are focusing on these 5 considerations. Now, I've said here and I'll say this here, I'll say this again, that personally, I believe that when you take what democracy is, I believe that Ghana has not been able to achieve democracy properly, so-called. And what we are doing is just a third of democracy. Because you see, when you take the definition of what democracy is, as the most popular definition, because there are so many definitions of what is democracy, but the most popular definition is the definition that Abraham Lincoln gave when he made his speech at Gettysburg, where he said democracy is what's called government of the people, by the people, and for the people. So for there to be democracy, really, there are 3 strands. You see, so the people themselves must choose their government. The people themselves must also be involved in the government, and the purpose of the government, the focus of the government must be to the benefit of the people. Now, when you analyze critically the democracy we have practiced here, essentially what we have created is an electioneering machine. So our only involvement really in our democracy is to vote. No leader here has managed to create a system, a democratic system, which is inclusive. Indeed, if anything, our democracy has been very divisive, and has been divisive to the extent that where we have chosen our leaders, you understand, we tend to have a situation where we say what the winner takes all. As a winner takes all a system where only the party that sponsored the president who won really have a direct involvement in decision making. You understand? But then when you read critically our constitution and what the focus of our constitution was, indeed, when you read the political objective, one of the critical political objectives here, and here I'm talking about Article 35, 6, D. Now, let's read the text 5.6 first. It says, towards achievement of the objectives stated in clause 5 of this article, the state shall take appropriate measures to its. But then, what interests me is the D part. It says, make democracy a reality by decentralizing the administrative and financial machinery of government to the regions and districts, and by affording all possible opportunities to the people to participate in decision making at every level in national life and the government. I know an argument can be advanced that because of the fact that we have a parliament and the parliamentarians are there to represent us, when they are involved in critical decision making processes in our country, really we are involved. But that was not the focus. That's not what or how our constitution meant to achieve that. You know, we've been trying to push this local government system, as in this district level elections and the structure, without any proper success. You understand? Because for us to have proper democracy, then we need a leader who can find a way of including everybody. You understand? At every level in how decisions are made. Also, and I know as this is a discussion that we can have further, but clearly where we are right now, I know our focus isn't really on achieving as in this. Now, because of the extent to which our economy has been destroyed, and where we are, clearly one of the key focus of this election will also be on the economy. And so the citizens of this country must have this economic objective under 1992 Constitution in mind. Now, I think this will be a proper place for me to bring the context I was talking about. Now, the proper context to cite where we are right now and the policy considerations we must have when we are going to vote in 2024 is where we were in 2015 when we went to the IMF. Because we need to understand that we went to the IMF in 2015 and went to the IMF for certain reasons. And if you are going to be honest and non-partisan, we went to the to the IMF in 2015 for problems which have bedeviled our country since the 80s, when we changed the focus of our economy from an import substitution and closed economy to a free trade economy. The problems that made us go there, one was the fact that we had debt levels which were not sustainable. And if you take your time and understand why we've always had debt levels which are unsustainable, to the fact that our central bank consistently have been financing a budget deficit. You understand? And also the banking issues. And when you look at the problems that underpins these reasons that caused us to go to the IMF, and you look at all the reasons that have made us to go to the IMF, what has made us to go to IMF, made us to go to IMF in 2022. The fact that, again, there were debt sustainability issues. The fact that per the IMF, and one of the reasons that has made our debt levels always unsustainable is the fact that government spends a huge percentage of its revenue in paying a huge public service. Then you understand the problems that we have dealt with, and the problems for which we need a leadership that has a plan and a program to solve these issues. Because the question is, why is it that consistently, for almost all the 17 times we have been to the IMF, one of the prescribed solutions has been to put a freeze on public sector employment? Yes, and to understand, the only reason why our public sector employment, or the government will find the need to employ a lot of people into the public service, is because of the inability of the private sector to create jobs. Largely, we have a private sector that is so weak that it is unable to create jobs. Because you see, it is trite that one of the biggest creators of jobs in every economy is the SME, the small and medium scale enterprise. And clearly our constitution recognizes that. So when you look at the economic objective of the directive principles of state policy, it aligns certain principles that should guard. So when you read it, to say the state shall in particular take on the necessary steps to establish a sound and healthy economy, whose underlying principles shall include, and the BIFA is affording ample opportunity for individual initiative and creativity in economic activities, and fostering an enabling environment for a pronounced role of the private sector in the economy. You understand? Because when you understand the problems that we have dealt with, in my view, I'll mention three. Now, one, the inability of government to raise revenue, lack of jobs, and the inability of our country to raise enough foreign exchange. You see, you can put almost all our economic problems under these three headings. Now, when you take the inability to raise revenue, we all know that the primary revenue of government is tax. You understand? And we also know that it's the private sector that pays tax. Yeah, it's the private sector that pays tax. So if you are government and you want to increase your revenue, it's not just about adding crazy tax on people. Because in 2015, all of us, myself included, we bashed John Mahama because he was adding what we called nuisance tax. Understand? And we were so excited when His Excellency Dr. Bawumia said he was going to move the nation from taxation into production. Because the truth of the matter is that you can increase your revenue without burdening your people, where you put in place policies that will increase productivity. Because if you create an economic system where business activities increase, you understand, then you have there'll be a higher opportunity for you to raise much more revenue without necessarily burdening the individual citizens of this country. So that the issue is that when MPP, when Anado came into power in 2015, on the back, at the time when we were at the IMF, and we all know that when you go to the IMF, what the IMF is going to do for you is that it's going to give you macroeconomic stability. It's going to give you the platform upon which you can then engender growth, or what we need now, transformation. Unfortunately, what we have done as a people is that whenever we've been to the IMF and our debt to GDP levels have come down, what we've used that stability for is to borrow more money. Is to borrow more money without necessarily channeling those monies in building a robust private sector and help build a robust private sector. Now the question is, we are the IMF now. When you look at the purpose and focus of the IMF program, the focus of the IMF program, first of all, is to bring macroeconomic stability, and they believe that can then help them to engender inclusive growth. Now, what we need as a people is to consider critically the programs of the people who are standing for presidency. How feasible or how easy would the programs they are proposing, how can it bring about the transformation that would then also bring about the inclusive growth here? For me, that's the critical question for all Ghanaians to consider. You understand? Also, we are playing with another very critical issue. That critical issue is the energy issue. It is a very critical issue that must also be considered when we are going to vote in 2024. Now, we know that His Excellency Dr. Bawumia told us that the energy issue that we faced from 2012 to 2016 was because of financing. Now, we all recall, I'm saying where we are as a nation, we need to have integrity, even as citizens. So we always say change, and we think there's the politicians that must change. But we, the people, also need to have a certain level of integrity. When you read the directive state, the policy, it says something, it talks about the fact that our loyalty must always be to the country, not to our ethnic group, not to our political parties. Because largely, we've lacked integrity as a people because we've had other loyalties beyond Ghana. And so when an issue comes up, we look at those issues through the lenses of our tribe, of our political party, and we're unable to speak truth. See, when we had the energy issues, you understand, in 2016, it was as a result of a clear dent in one of the energy supply chains. So we know, because you have the productivity, the generation side, you have the transmission side, and you have the distribution, as in the commercial side. Now, if you are going to be honest, steps were taken to improve the production side. Now, also foundations were laid. That meant that the next leader would have the opportunity to deal with the transmission and the commercial side. Because after having boosted the generation side, what the ESLA, the Energy Sector Levy Act, meant that we could raise money to, first of all, deal with the debt levels, bring some form of equilibrium, and then create a program that will ensure that our energy sector was financially viable. Now, when Nanado came, yes, they collateralized the ESLA and then took monies purposely to go and deal with them, but they failed to show any kind of commitment to dealing with the problems that created the debt in the first place. You understand? And then for me, having done the energy sector recovery program, which clearly showed the understanding of what the problems were and how they were going to solve the problems, showed no commitment. And so right now we are in the worse situation than we were in 2016. My personal view is that we need change. We need serious change. His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, in my view, should not even be up for consideration. Because when you understand the problems, because you see, you have created, or we vote for yesterday that come and solve problems. Now, one of the key problems that is under consideration now is the economic issue. Now, in his own submission, he said Nanado taxed him with a job. In fact, specifically in paragraph 65 of his speech, to lead the transformation of Ghana. You understand? And what that simply means is that, because when you are government, the role you play in the economy can be put largely under two headings: fiscal and monetary. You understand? Because you have the government, or the president really has the power to levy taxes, has the power to spend those monies. And we all know that when it comes to taxation, the focus is not just to raise revenue, but also to boost, sometimes through incentives, through subsidies, to boost certain sectors of the economy you think would need some support to build a monetary policy. And here, we all know that the Bank of Ghana governor is independent. So the Bank of Ghana is independent, yet it's the president that appoints him, with the subject to approval from Parliament. And so, by the person you choose and the person's view and philosophy on monetary policy, you can shape and direct the focus of your economic transformation. The president said the person he tasked with that job was Dr. Bawumia. That meant that it was Dr. Bawumia's job to give direction as to where government's fiscal policy was heading, to give direction as to where their monetary policy was heading. Now we have a situation where right now Ghana has no credibility when it comes to the economy. Nobody will lend us any money. In fact, our own citizens will not be ready to buy our bonds. So the person that has led to this calamitous collapse of the economy cannot be under consideration if we are thinking about picking a leader who is going to, whose major tax will be to resurrect an almost dead economy. For me, and certainly I have my biases, but I believe that the program that can lead to the transformation of this country, because it has in it policies that, or prescribed policies that can solve all the problems, are the great transformational plan. But as in to be fair, because we are speaking to Ghanaians, I'm going to push that. But really, in my view, there are just two options. One option entails an end which will be beneficial to all Ghanaians. Because you see, where you have an economy that is run every minute of the day, that means that you have a system that affords you the opportunity to produce, that affords you the opportunity to consume every minute of the day. My only issue with that end is the fact that I have not seen the programs, the plans that would necessarily lead to that end. But we have another program, the Great Transformation Plan, which, if is implemented to the letter, will lead us to one, a radical transformation in productivity, which naturally would bring about what's called that 24-hour economy. You have a program that tackles almost all the sectors of our economy, and whose focus one is to raise revenue, is to create jobs, and to improve foreign exchange inflows into the country. Now, the other consideration then will be the track record of the people. Well, you know, as a very fantastic argument has been made by His Excellency John Mahama, the experience argument. Yeah, you understand? Because really, the truth of the matter is that he's the only person who has ever been president. In fact, he's the first president, or former president of Ghana, who is contesting for an election. So that when J.J. Rawlings says, and if you expand the argument, then when J.J. Rawlings was contesting in '92, he was the former head of state. But under this dispensation, John Mahama is the first former president who is contesting as an opposition person. Now, the issue is that then all the other presidents we've had, or none of the presidents we've had been president before they were given the job. But in all the dire leadership we've had, I don't think we can argue about the sessional leadership given by His Excellency John Ejikun Kufuor and John Atta Mills. Because when you look at the economic indicators, you see a steady rise between 2000 until 2012. Certainly, what it means is that in the midst of all the dire leadership we've had as a people, at least we had two leaders, John Ejikun Kufuor and His Excellency John Mills, who at least whose light shone in the midst of all the darkness our leadership has led us into. So for me, then that argument cannot be tenable. You understand? For me, so that when you are considering the track record of the people, it's not just about the fact that he has been president. Other than that, there is nobody in the history of Ghana would have qualified to be president. Considering that their track record, you need to look at what they've done in their private lives. You need to consider what they stand for. You need to understand what their vision is. Now, you take Honorable Alan Chemantin, and I know that an argument has been that he was a minister under both Kufuor and under Nanado. You understand? But even in his ministerial role, as much as he was not the holder of the executive power, we can glean from how he handled those portfolios, the kinds of policies he tried to drive, you understand, and the potential of those policies to lead to the ultimate transformation of this country. Because we are talking about the private sector here, and we are talking about the fact that one of the key problems facing us is lack of job creation. But we have somebody who is putting himself up for president, who through the Empretech program, one of the radical programs ever done in this country, led to the creation and the building up of so many businesses. Indeed, a program he did so well that he was tasked by the UNDP to do same in Africa through Enterprise Africa. And there are companies that we can point to, Angel, Tropical Cable, and all. Now we are talking about somebody who is the creator and the leader of one of the most radical economic transformational programs in Africa. That's the African Continental Free Trade Area. So for me, I want to sell to Ghanaians this leader who has also demonstrated a massive commitment to transforming this country. In 2024, if our focus, one, is on the purpose for which we are supposed to choose leader, as has been enumerated succinctly by the Article 34 or Chapter 6 of our Constitution, then where you have a leader who says that one of the focus of the movement he's leading is first of all to create a situation where we have what's called a nation of national unity, where the party you belong to doesn't really matter, where your tribe doesn't matter, where your religion does not matter, where your ethnic group does not matter, where all that matters is your unalloyed commitment to the development of our country. Where we have a leader who in one of the pillars of the movement he's leading, the movement that says that he wants change. And the focus of that change is not just necessarily a change of regime, but change in how we do things. Is saying that it is necessary that we give a leadership that can achieve the ends of democracy. That end being creating a governance system where we have political inclusiveness. Okay. You understand? A leadership that is focused on using soft power to also change the attitude of Ghanaians. And we see that in how he does his politics. Okay. You understand? So that at least I know that between he and JDM, we won't have politics of insults. We'll have debates, hard debates on national issues that will ultimately bring about the transformation of this country. Okay. So, yes, I know Global Info Analytics has spoken. It's clear that a lot of people have shifted from their belief in Bawumia. Myself, I voted for Nanado in 2016. I voted for Nanado in 2020. In fact, the only time I didn't vote for Nanado when he stood for was in 2008. Because I've said it here before, I've always believed that, and I'm even more convinced now, that Jonathan Mills was always a better leader than Nanado. You understand? But it is necessary that we as Ghanaians exercise some form of integrity, because what is at stake is not about the political parties. You understand? What is at stake is about Ghana itself. And we need a leader that can lead us to achieve the focus and purpose for which our country itself was forged together, to build that one country that can achieve economic liberation for all of us, and to see Ghana, a country that's the focus and inspiration to all black people across the globe, rising up again. That is what is at stake. And I think we can see Ghana rise again when, in spite of what Global Info Analytics is saying, we give our votes, make our decision for the presidency of Alan John Kudo Chamanten. Ghana will be transformed, Ghana will rise again, and all of us will win. Thank you.
Thank you. This is Kobna on Spin Test. Senator Mutalam has translated the Dagbani proverb. In fact, for the first time, you quoted the proverb without necessarily talking about what it means. This one is from Papa Bisu. Says, Senator, the MPP is just deceitful, disagreeing with Global Info reports in public. They know they have recklessly spent hard-earned taxpayers' cash on unnecessary ventures like the biggest hole in the world, $18.5 million on judgment debt on Mackenzie, SML, $100 million every year. Hence, they will surely be voted out, but they are only showing strong face in public to deceive Ghanaians that they are doing very well. Thank you for that message. Abbas Amogobo in Ofinso also sends a message. The research was charitable to this corrupt, super incompetent vice president in his party. With his abysmal and deception, they don't even deserve 10% of the vote. This government is the worst ever. Thank you for that message. Okay, Dennis Yakuti only wants me to wish him a belated happy birthday. So a belated happy birthday to you. Yesterday was your birthday. There's Koblavi in Pokwasi, Benghazi. Says MPP will lose massively in the next coming general elections if they pick Matthew Poku Prempeh and Apo as running mate of Dr. Bawumia, because he has already provoked Ghanaians by plunging Ghana into doom. So we don't want an arrogant man as vice president. Both Dr. Bawumia and Dr. Matthew Poku Prempeh, aka Napo, have nothing to offer Ghanaians. They are bad leaders. We should vote against them because they can't manage Ghana. Honorable.
Thank you very much, Senator. Eid Mubarak to the Muslim community, my colleague, and then to my constituents in Kpandu, and to your cherished listeners. The discussion has been wonderful so far. I want to say something that those who are pushing Dr. Bawumia as a Muslim, they should know that he's a two-headed creature. And I say that because if we are sitting here right now and somebody walks into this room with two heads, I think we'll start running. The reason I say that is, this one on one occasion is Timothy, who goes to Methodist Church. On the other occasion, he's a Muslim. He's, like Paul said, all things to all men. He's a Muslim to Muslims and a Christian to Christians. Such a person has no credibility. We should be running away from him. And I think the point Honorable Murtala made was very, very clear. Politics is not about what religion you belong to. It's about what good you can do for the people of the country. Now, let me say that the research report was very encouraging to me. The reason is that NDC sat back under their new leadership, or our new leadership, sat back, analyzed the past. This is what we're able to do for Ghana: infrastructure, hospitals, roads, you name it, airports. We did a lot. There were problems. Dumsor was there. But even that, we're able to solve, like lawyer said, the generation part of our electrical program. But what is the issue right now is, after sitting back and analyzing all that, seeing that what they created, what we achieved in the past, and what the nation is, where the nation is at right now, you will see that a lot of people have lost faith and confidence in politics and in government. And people are looking for change. And it is for that reason that you find people like Honorable Alan Chemanting creating his new party. Excuse me. Ghanaians were looking for, disillusioned with politics, with government, many of them, and are looking for change. They are seeing the two political parties, or they were seeing the two political parties as basically the same. Now, after NDC had done their introspection, looked at what they did before, looked at the state this Dr. Bawumia economic management team leader has taken Ghanaians, and how quickly we need to get out of the situation. They created a new NDC. The NDC we are seeing now is not the NDC we know. It's a new NDC. And that is what I'm glad that Ghanaians are beginning to see, as reflected in the polls. They are beginning to see that this NDC is not the NDC that lawyer is talking about. It's not the John Dramani Mahama lawyer knew. This is an NDC that has sat back, looked at its errors, and has made changes, and come up with a new NDC. And the results is showing that people are beginning to appreciate that. They're beginning to appreciate the change that the NDC is bringing. 24-hour economy. He said just now, every minute of the day, we need things. Every minute of the day, we are spending money. We need to make money. And the only way we can do that is, as JDM said, go with the 24-hour economy. Let it be everywhere. Let it be every day. And then this will increase our job creation, will increase our money creation, so that we don't have problems with going back to IMF. And you know what? If you look at where we are at now as a nation, the reason we need somebody with experiences, we need somebody who has been that road before, has seen the damage that has been created, has plans to quickly resolve those issues. 2016, my fuel consumption hasn't changed. About 23 gallons a week. That's my going to office and back, and then once a week going to constituency and back. How much was I spending in 2016? 391 Ghana cedis. How much am I spending today? Same 23 gallons. I'm spending now 1,518 cedis. And these are the things that Ghanaians are concerned about, and we should all be concerned about. Not the political party you belong to, but where this government has brought us to should be a concern for all of us. Electricity bill. My electricity bill in 2016, a month, was 500 cedis thereabout. My electricity bill today, a week, is 1,500 cedis. Same appliances, same house. So you can see where Ghana has moved from 2016 till date. Water bill, the same. Everything has increased astronomically, even though this government has raised more taxes than any government in the past. So you can see that it's pure mismanagement. It's using money for things that we don't need to use money for. Like somebody said, using millions of dollars for the biggest pit in the country to no avail. You know, those are the things that this Dr. Bawumia and his government has led us into. I mean, NDC has sat back, looked at all that is happening, looked at what they did, what was wrong, and come up and said, look, this is us now. We are a new NDC. We are no longer the NDC you know. You can trust us. Very quickly, because of our past experience, we'll resolve the issues that the country is facing and move into productivity and move into job creation and move into a country that people were proud of. People, I mean, before it was, you were proud to belong to Ghana, to be a Ghanaian. But that has eroded over the past few years. And if we don't change this government, I mean, it will come to a time when you are traveling and you are holding the Ghanaian passport, you'll be hiding, as was in some time past. So clearly, the analysis is good. It means that NDC is doing something new. It means that NDC has changed some leaf. People are appreciating the change, and they are seeing that this new NDC is one we can trust. And so the polls is reflecting that. My only caution there again is we shouldn't be complacent. The fact that the polls is saying this doesn't mean that we should just sit back and say, well, we've won the elections already. There's a lot more work to be done. There are many more people we should show this new NDC to and let them know that this is where we are and this is where we are going. And I believe that many more people who voted MPP will change and vote NDC this time. Even though the analysis is saying 19%, I believe come December, it will be much more than that. Because they'll keep seeing the new NDC, the difference we are bringing to board, the different things that are happening within the NDC, the new leadership, everything is new, and I don't know how to put it. We are presenting a better NDC, one that has the experience, has seen the sweat and cry of Ghanaians, what they've cried in the last 8 years, and even crying more in this last final year. And definitely, we won't be complacent. We have to protect the image, build upon it, let people see more the new NDC, and come December this year, 7th December, we will see that what they have come up with will be even more than that, because the difference has been known, has been experienced, it is clear. And Mr. Shemanti is talking about transformation. There's a difference. The 24-hour economy will transform Ghana. I mean, to the letter, it will transform every aspect and every fabric of the society. And that is where we are headed for. And that's why I'm very happy that this is a wake-up call to NDC. In fact, it's a pat in the back. You're doing something good, you're doing something right, keep at it. And then also it's a warning. This is where you are. Things can change. Don't be complacent. Don't go to bed. Keep at it. Do what is right. Keep showing new people the new NDC. Keep showing them the things that you'll be doing differently. Come December 2024, we'll find that going to the polls will do exactly even more than they are saying. The country has gone through a lot. We've gone through a mess. People are fed up with the Bawumia lies. It's so embarrassing. All the promises he made, now he's trying to take cover. So he's desperate now, saying that I'm a Muslim, then telling people that no, I'm a Christian. In fact, my name is Timothy, or my name was Timothy. Now I mean, it's a two-faced, two-head person. And any two-head person is scary. I mean, when you see a two-head person enter your room, you should be running for cover. And this is what it is. And I think my prediction is it's possible that Kwame Bediako will do better than Dr. Bawumia at the polls. That is my prediction. He has one young supporter in my house. One little girl said she's going to vote for 8 years, so she's going to vote for Kwame Bediako. I said, why? She said she's been seeing his billboards all over the place. So if she had a vote, that would have been a vote for you. But really, 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 we are talking seriously. This country is in crisis. This nation is in a mess. And we need somebody with the experience, somebody who has sat back, analyzed the situation, seen the mistakes they have made in the past, come up with new ideas and new things to quickly solve the problem and move Ghana up. So this is my contribution to your first topic. Thank you very much, Senna.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Dala Silva. Before I go to Comrade Kwesi Pratt Jr. Just some messages that have been sent to us via WhatsApp. This one says, instead of thinking of how to fix the mess they have caused to the economy, they are rather making attempts to deceive the masses again, this time by using a 419 performance tracker. It will not work, Tom, as Sanko in Santa Maria said that, and continues to say pollsters may be right in their predictions, but the results could be changed through rigging and through violence like we saw at Ayawaso West Walk-on and the 2020 elections. What about that? Asanko, thank you for that message. Ivan from Soom says, Senator, the MPP says they don't believe in polls. In 2016, when all surveys indicated their win, they believed it. As we NDC, we are not complacent in the Global Info Analytics polls, but we are going to work and present a better alternative to the people of Ghana. We can't afford to let His Excellency JDM down, and we are ready to work to give him the majority of MPs. That's from Ivan in Suim. Ivan, thank you. This is from Breman UGC in Kumasi. Doesn't come with the name. Says, please. Okay. Mention a question upon the arrogance of this MPP government to run away from responsibilities. What is sending them into opposition for the next 50 years? Thank you. Okay, this one says, thank you for that message. There's more. Says, lawyer, let's align join hands with Mahama for a better Ghana, and God will bless you abundantly. Wafa, you have sent that from Community 18 in Tema. Wafa, thank you. There's also says, I have been following Ghanaian politics for some time now, and I could unfortunately observe a close semblance in the mentalities of politicians and the way politics is being practiced in Ghana and Nigeria, my country. You see, when politicians want to take undeserved advantage, they whip religious sentiments to hoodwink the voters. The moment politicking ends, the political enemies of yesterday become friends again. In 2015 general election, President Goodluck Jonathan played religious tricks on, but didn't succeed. Let Ghanaian voters, as we say here in Nigeria, shine their eyes. Enough of MPP regressive politics. Olatunde Aderoju sent that from Osun State. The place is that is Osogbo. Thank you very much for sending that message. That tells you how far Pan-African TV goes. Yeah, this one says, Salifo Mohammed in Ho says the MPP government is insensitive to the plight of the people. Jobless nurses are crying every day and traveling out, but they never listen. Sena, I'm in the house for the past 5 years unemployed. To Bawumia, please tell MP for Tamale to reserve his energy and not to be bothered. We the citizens have already made our minds that never MPP in power again. Sena, I have never faced a hardship in my life like this before. I eat once in a day as a graduate nurse. Comment.
Well, I've read the latest results of the survey carried out by Global Info Analytics. And after reading the results, I've also had the opportunity of speaking with the Executive Director of Global Info Analytics. As a matter of fact, I interviewed him yesterday, and that interview is likely to play this evening. Now, if you look at the results which have been released, it suggests that the outcome of the elections would be a tsunami. What is predicted has not happened in the history of elections in Ghana since 1992. There's a landslide victory for former President John Dramani Mahama. Now, there are a few interesting aspects of that report. He's virtually winning in all the regions, with the exception of 2 or so, I think. Okay.
Yes.
He's winning across all the religious divide. He's the preferred candidate of Muslims, preferred candidate of Christians, and so on. He's winning across all the social divisions in the country, and so on. And when I read the report, I was stunned. He has more than a 20% lead over his his closest rival, and so on. Now, this is interesting, okay? Very interesting. Now, it's important to understand clearly that in the 2016 elections, the margin between Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and President John Dramani Mahama then was about 1 million votes. 1 million. By 2020, that gap was narrowed to 500,000. Okay? So in the first 4-year period, the NPP and Nana Akufo-Addo's government lost 500,000 votes. It is not surprising that in the next 4 years, they appear to be losing more than 500,000 votes. Something is happening. Now, what is it that is happening? Clearly, the conditions of our people are worsening. Okay? And the New Patriotic Party has not been able to give hope to our people and is losing votes. It's also significant to note that Mr. Alan Martin has left the New Patriotic Party. In fact, many of the propagandists of the New Patriotic Parties and so on are emphasizing the unity of the party. Now, the man is gone already, he's not coming back. That unity is not there, cannot be there, it's gone. And so when you hear them urging unity, they're actually urging unity for those who have remained. Okay. Now, for those of us who are looking at these results of polling, we must be careful to do proper evaluation. This polling does not take account of rigging. This is if people were to go to the polls and genuinely vote and express themselves, this would be the outcome. If elections are rigged, this would not be the outcome. That's one important factor that everybody must look at. Now, I've been looking at election results from 1992, and there's something striking. If you take all the election results from 1992, for every election, at least you find one constituency, at least one constituency, where the number of votes cast is more than the number of registered voters. Do the exercise and see it for yourself. At least one constituency, at least. That's an indication of rigging. It may not be widespread, it may not be sufficient to nullify the results of an election, but it's an indication of rigging. I hope you understand what I'm saying. So the election results themselves tell us that not everything has been rosy, and that there has been some underhand dealings in the elections. And this calls for some remedial actions. Okay. Now, for those of us who raised this alarm, there are indications that something could happen. I'm not saying that something will happen. I'm saying that something could happen. When the governing party starts appointing its card-bearing propagandists onto the National Electoral Commission, we have to be cautious. We have to ring the alarm bells. Now, I am really surprised at the sloppiness of the National Democratic Congress in dealing with this matter. Can you imagine if in 2016, President Mahama had appointed Dr. Tony Edu as a member of the National Electoral Commission, what would have happened? NDC in this instance wrote some lame, useless letter to the Council of State and went to bed. There were MPP primaries in Yendi. An official of the Electoral Commission boldly and proudly declared his membership or sympathy of the New Patriotic Party. What has happened? Nothing. So these NDC people who are sitting in their houses and saying, making all kinds of claims, they are funny. They are exceedingly funny. They don't know what time it is, as some people say. You understand? Okay. Now that is one. Two, these are the results that the polls show. And I believe, honestly, that those who conducted the polls are credible. Global Info Analytics has established its credibility over the last 5 years. One, if you look at the survey they conducted on the 2020 elections, not even the 2016 elections, that's when they started. They were on point. They conducted a survey on the Asin North election, they were on point. They conducted a survey on the MPP primaries, they had it right. So if you look at all the surveys they've conducted, you have to take their results seriously. Now understand that the MPP campaign has raised issues with the current poll results. And then I ask a question. Between the MPP campaign, or the Bawumia campaign, and Global Info Analytics, who should we trust? If you take the MPP primaries, the Bawumia campaign actually predicted 70% victory for Bawumia. It didn't happen. Okay? Some of you went as far as predicting 80% and so on. It didn't happen. If you take the Asin North elections, the MPP prediction didn't happen. You understand? Even if you take the 2016 elections, the MPP prediction, you understand what I mean? So between the Bawumia campaign and Global Info Analytics, I would find Global Info Analytics more credible. But you see, again, we are in April. The elections will be on December 4th. December 7th. We are in April. Between now and December 7th, many things can happen. I'll tell you a story. There was a parliamentary candidate in some country, European country and so on, that nobody took serious. Everybody knew that this candidate was not going to do well in the elections at all. A few weeks to the elections, some unknown, unidentified persons assaulted this candidate. The public sympathy that this assault generated gave him victory. So the things that decide victory can happen on the spur of the moment. One reckless statement from a leader of the NDC is going down straight into the gutters. One reckless statement can destroy the NDC. One, not two, one reckless statement. Okay? So it's important, especially for those around their candidates, if they don't have sensible things to say, to shut up. I hope you understand what I'm saying. If they don't have sensible things to say, they should shut up. Because the real danger facing the NDC today is that many of its members, especially in leadership positions, are beginning to believe that the elections have been won already. And that all that is left is how to share the spoils. Those people are a danger to the party. Okay? Now the NDC is putting up a candidate. NPP is putting up a candidate. Other parties are putting up candidates. Yes, sometimes we are tempted to say that party A or party B will win the election or has won the election and so on. But who has to win the election? It is not Mahama. It is not Bawumia. It is the people of Ghana who have to win the election. Because the election is about the welfare of the people of Ghana. The election is about whether the people of Ghana can afford gobe or kenke and fish. The election is about access to education and quality education for all Ghanaians, not only members of the NDC. The election is about the availability of potable water to everybody in this country. So this nonsense of MPP extending the 8 and NDC winning and stupid partisanship and so on does not impress me. Bottom line, what is this election going to lead to? Improving the welfare of our people? Providing a better life for our people or not? That is the issue. And that is why sometimes it is important to interrogate manifestos. Even though since 1992 manifestos have been completely useless in this country, and I can discuss that. No party has implemented everything they have said in their manifesto. No party. That's a fact. So now manifestos mean very little to us, the electorate, the manifestos. Who is going to implement any manifesto? I've been watching this period very closely. I've been hearing all the promises which are being made from left, right, center. Of course, the most ridiculous is the guy who intends to take the sea from Kolegono to Kumasi. But they're equally ridiculous claims and promises. You understand? So, as a manifesto, they shouldn't waste our time. And in all the promises, manifesto promises which are being made, if you examine them carefully, and you are sober, reflective, and informed, you have problems with all the manifesto promises which are being made. Why do I say this? This is a bankrupt country. Bankrupt. Whoever is elected on January 7th will be struggling to find money to buy ice water to put in the fridge of the president. That's how bad the situation is. We are spending way above national revenue. Bankrupt country. So no matter what promises are being made by NPP, NDC and so on, let's be realistic. It is possible, it ain't going to happen. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. It is just possible, it ain't going to happen. Now, the polls indicate that John Mahama may become president on January 7th. All things being equal, he will become president on January 7th. 2025. Master, I pity him. Truly, truly pity him. I pity John Mahama. Because if care is not taken, after winning the elections, between 3 and 6 months, the people of Ghana will be on the streets with cutlasses chasing him. How is he going to deliver? Unless you don't know what is happening in this country, unless you don't know the state of the country, how is he going to deliver? Is he going to run to the IMF and the World Bank again? Now, I read his statement on LGBTQ and so on. I read the statement. The US, even the IMF and so on, are saying that if you take that position, we will squeeze you to death. So clearly that is not an option. If he's going to maintain his stand on LGBTQ, he starts off with a massive squeeze from the Western countries, the IMF, and others. How is he going to overcome that problem to start with? That problem alone, how is he going to solve it? So, winning elections would not be like lying on a bed of roses, to use the old cliche. There is work to be done, very, very serious work to be done. Even for those who win the election, they have to sweat, they have to cry, they have to feel pains. Now, for those who have already started counting their chicken before the eggs have been hatched, Masa, it's not going to be easy. Oh. They don't know. They think it's children playing. It's not going to be easy. Senna. There are a few things too that I want to talk about, You know, handlers of candidates can have the best of intentions. The handlers of candidates. They can have the best of intentions, but end up messing the candidates big time. Because the handlers of the candidates, they have their own aspirations. Aspirations, ambitions, outlook, and so on. Sometimes, and indeed most times, if they inflict these aspirations, ambitions, and so on the candidate, they destroy the candidate. A good candidate can be destroyed very easily. In our circumstances, the NDC has a woman presidential candidate. And me, I wish her all the best. I wish her all the best because I've known her over the years and I think she's an excellent woman. And I keep saying, the first time she struck me as somebody who was extraordinary was when she gave the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Lectures at the University of Cape Coast. I can never take that out of my head. I think she's a decent woman, and I wouldn't mind if she became the vice president of this republic. Okay? But her handlers should be very careful not to clothe her in their own stupid, petty bourgeois idiosyncrasies. If I were managing her, my main assignment would be to make her look sound and everything like an ordinary Ghanaian woman. So hiring makeup people and so on to go and paint her face and so on should be out of the equation completely. You understand? When she's going out, how she's dressed, she must look like a working class woman. Working class woman, put jeans on her, put canvas on her, put some t-shirt on her, and so on. Let her look like a working class woman. It brings votes. Already she has a handicap. What many people think is her strength can also become her handicap. She's a professor, for God's sake. The general attitude towards academics beyond a certain level, everybody knows. I'm not going to repeat it. Bring her down. to the level of people like me. You understand? Or below. Is that below? I think I'm at the bottom. You understand? So, I'm an outsider. But even outsiders can peep into the inside. And what they see can sometimes be revealing. I don't want to talk too much on this particular issue. It has often been said that a word to the wise is enough. Okay? And I think I've said more than one word. So it's more than enough. I'm not going to repeat anything. But you see, this election is also taking on the tone of a competition of religions, of tribes, of regions, and so on. And I sit back and I say, is this Kwame Nkrumah's Ghana? What the hell happened to us? Why? This is a country in which a poor boy from Nkrofo, a small village in the western region then, didn't have rich parents. The mother didn't go to Harvard. The father didn't go to Oxford, and so on. Came all the way from Nkrofo, contested elections in Accra, and beat an indigent, Obeche Bilamte, to Ras. He beat him to Ras. What happened to us? That all of a sudden, the region where you come from is important, the language you speak is important, your religion is important, and so on. What happened to us? You see, the backward people in our society, very backward forces in our society, have gained the upper hand in the political discourse. And it will have consequences for us now, tomorrow, and in the future. Why? Inflation, yesterday I saw some publication which indicated that inflation was above 25%. Now, if you choose a Notna for president, how does that bring inflation down? This country is bankrupt. You choose somebody from Sogakope, how does that change that situation? You choose somebody from Gomoa de Rampong, how does that change that situation? How does that change that situation? Me, to be honest with you, I don't think that corruption is the bane of our development. I don't think that corruption is a Ghanaian category. I don't think that corruption is an African category. Corruption is universal, everywhere in the world. So if in spite of the fact that corruption is universal, some people are making progress and we are not making progress, it means that we have to look for additional causes. Okay? Additional causes. I don't think that our economy is in this state simply because our leaders have stolen money. Yes, they may steal money, they may have stolen money and so on. But that's not the reason. If you are the 5th largest producer of gold in the world, not in Africa, in the world, and Ghanaian interest in gold production is zero. Hey, your people can be angels from heaven. Your economy will not grow. It will not improve. So let us begin to think and stop using these shortcuts. They are useless. Now every politician is talking about corruption. One, because they don't know the true causes of our underdevelopment. They have no idea what is responsible for our underdevelopment. So corruption is easy. Everybody, corruption. Nobody is talking about the fact that we have 0% interest in gold extraction in our country. That is more difficult to do. To discuss gold production is more difficult to do. You need extra intellectual acumen. You need to be able to analyze data and so on. The politicians are lazy and sometimes stupid. So they don't discuss those difficult issues. We have signed an economic partnership agreement with the European Union. What is its consequences on our economy? Is it corruption which made us sign the economic partnership agreement with the European Union? No! But these politicians, nitwit some of them, they can't discuss the economic partnership agreement. So the easier one, corruption. As for corruption, everybody can talk some. Especially when you don't have to provide any evidence. So everybody, corruption, corruption, corruption. Let's look at the fundamental causes of our underdevelopment. And let's begin to discuss those issues. Massa, I'm even coughing. Let us begin to discuss the fundamental causes of our underdevelopment. Because if we continue this useless corruption mantra, it's not taking us anywhere. There are major fundamental problems with our economy. And one of those that I like to discuss a lot, that's simple. It's not even complicated. Master, you see, all the resources we have, they are non-renewable resources. Take note of that. When you dig gold from the soil, you cannot plant gold for it to germinate and create more gold. When you take out the diamond, it's gone forever. When you take out the gas, it's gone forever. When you take out the oil, it's gone forever. Tell me one resource which is renewable. Now today, when we have all of these resources embedded in our soil, look at our state. So sit down and imagine 50 years from now, when we have taken all the resources and deposited them in other people's countries, what will happen to us? This is the critical question our politicians must be asking. And they must be providing answers. Not that I'm a Muslim or I'll unite Muslims and Christians and so on. That is, excuse my language. Please excuse my language. That is foolish talk. On the street, the language is different, but I can't use that here. On the street, if you talk like that, there's a way of describing it, but unfortunately, I'm sitting on television. And I can't use that language. I would have loved to use that language. Eh? Oh, he is Bush. I'm much smaller. If I use that language, I don't know what will happen to me from tomorrow. So let me just simply say foolish talk. Extremely foolish talk. You see? Massa, my friends in the NDC, be careful. Don't start counting your chicken before the eggs are hatched. Be careful. One of the things that people have accused the sitting government of is immodesty. One of the reasons why people are so angry with the Akufo-Addo government is simply immodesty. When Okujato Ablakwa makes it his duty to show any time the president travels on a rented jet, he's harping on that thing of immodesty. You understand? And it has made an impact. When the president travels and goes to a radio station in Kumasi to go and grant an interview, and people count 70-something four-wheel drives, it's harping on immodesty and so on. But you see, if people in the villages see the NDC campaign team passing, And they are in a convoy of 40 vehicles. Do you know what they say? That even in opposition, look at them. What do they do when they come into government? Even in opposition, look at them. So modesty must be a cardinal point. And when you raise this issue, I get all kinds of responses. One of the responses is that, oh, former ministers and other officials, they like to join with their own cars because they want to be seen with the president. How about that? Maza, why? Why should you be following the presidential candidate? Your duty is to go to your own constituency and win that constituency and let the president win what he can win. So that if you aggregate all that everybody can win, it will lead you to victory. But these, my friends, they don't understand. If you tell them, they won't listen. So everybody is following President Mahama. One time, I was going home. Dominic Kwabenya here, I don't know where they were coming from. The first few cars passed, and then I saw, hey, so I started counting. Counted 26 vehicles. Why? Why? Is the competition now about immodesty? Who is more immodest?